Today, you probably heard about this new war springing up in West Asia. The war between Israel and America on the one hand and Iran on the other hand. There is this conflict about Russia and Ukraine and Europe and the United States. There is this conflict between Pakistan and Afghanistan. There are other minor wars at that time. There is the refugee crisis from Myanmar with more than 1 million people in a refugee camp. There is the Sudan refugee crisis. There are so many different kind of problems. We haven't even mentioned Venezuela or anything else. And normally on this channel, I try to avoid a political statement. And the reason why I try to avoid this political statement is simply because, it attracts a lot of people because people like that spectacle, but it also at the same time diverges from the thing that is important. I am not a political analyst, so don't expect from me a judgment. I don't think when you want to elevate your own kind over another, or if you want to use aggression to another, or if you are trying to repress your own people or somebody else's people, in all these cases, I don't think you can be right? It is very simple. Human beings, they are communicative in their heart. Usually they're pretty good people and they try to be helpful to the people around them, and they try to be loving and kind, and they try to make sure that they have safety for themselves and that they have prosperity for themselves and the people around them. This is number one that I wanted to talk about. Let's meditate on that for a while. Sit in your mind. Your mind is here, not here. Sit in your mind. Feel with your gut at the same time and try to feel what these things all do to you, because this is where my specialization comes in. And especially now, because I'm preparing to go to the London Book Fair in March 2026 to present my new book, How to Survive Your Future with Chinese Medicine. Let me talk a little bit about it, because this video is going to be taking some time. When you look at the long form, when you look at the short form pieces, then you will see clips from this or things that are related to this. We live in a very nihilistic time, right? Nobody has any faith in their government. They don't have faith in their institutions. They don't trust the internet. They don't trust their neighbors. We are all living in very insecure times because there's so many things happening every day that are frustrating us and confusing us. Because as human beings, we are made for a local environment. In our heart, in our mind, in our consciousness, we can only really relate to small things. And as soon as things become bigger, they numb us out. For the few people who are really evil, which will rise up to the top of a company or to the top of a government, you can see that the systems developed by governments and the systems developed by companies are generally pretty good. I have studied enough to know that the systems themselves, they are not so bad. But it is the people who are in there who allow themselves to be corrupted by the possibilities that they get. The Epstein affair is a very nice example of rich white people abusing young girls, maybe also young boys, from all kind of nationalities. So they're being gathered for all kind of, whatever subversive activities. And as a result of that, now people are trying to push the lid back on. And as a result of that, there are all kind of things happening. And it's clear that the war in Iran is not so much about the Iranians. That is for the Iranians that I know here in my direct environment. It is for them. It is about the Iranians. They know for sure, because it is their homeland and it is the feeling that they have for their family members and the people that they want to be supportive of. For a country like America, it most likely is economics, because countries like America, in a nihilistic version of reality, is not caring about people, is not caring about democracy. The people are caring about democracy and they have built the institutions, but the leadership at a certain point in its corruption is only looking for more opportunity, capitalist opportunity. And when you are on any kind of spiritual path, capitalism and even leadership is not in your stars. So that means that when you are in a situation where you are developing yourself as a person, then you automatically turn away from leadership things. That doesn't mean that you do not listen to what is happening around you and that you do not communicate with other people. The opposite. Yeah, you're trying to communicate it, to share what you have to offer with your environment, and you try to make it available to everybody in the best way possible, whether it is just through your personality and your kindness in general. But as I said before, we are focused on a small space around us, and as soon as it becomes bigger, then either your evil side or your good side is trying to grasp it. To be quite frank, the study you need to go through in this time to be able to have a grasp of all the things that are going on in the world, you need a university level study. Not necessarily university, but a university level study. And you need to look at things from all kinds of perspectives, and then still you probably don't understand what you need to do. You just try to get into a situation where you can say, I think I got it. And now I have an ideal, I have an idea, and I have a pathway forward that gives meaning to my life and that gives meaning to other people's life. So now we get back to me, because this was just the world discussion. My own pathway to get here was exactly like that, and your pathway is maybe going to bring you to something like this, or maybe has already passed you past that, or maybe it's never going to bring you to that, because for you things work differently. I don't know. Just let me know in the commentaries what is your idea about this. The thing is that at the moment when we are talking about our personal development, we develop hard for things. When I was already very young, when I was still very young, and that's 50 plus years ago that I can say that I was young, I already started having concern about all kinds of things. So I got involved in my teenage years already in art, politics, spiritual development, Daoism, Buddhism, and so on and so on. I developed myself in all kinds of ways. I knew exactly from meditations and also from drug use and so on, where I wanted to go to and what was the root of the thoughts of these kind of things, why I wanted to go there, why I needed to go there. Because like in Buddhism and Taoism, they say there is a future karma that attracts you. So this is called your destiny, right? You meet people to fulfill your destiny. So I have met people all over the world as potential resources for my personal development and my reaching out towards the world. And now I have this channel already for a couple of years, and I'm slowly start to get my messaging together so that I start understanding what to say and how to say. Last year I published my first English language book. I already write in English for a long time for my IOC Daoist medicine students and for the people who come study health builder studies. And the idea that I developed at the beginning of my university studies with my mentor, Professor Jan Hakemulder, former diplomat for the Dutch government in Africa, we developed a plan to develop a healthcare, because that was closest to my knowledge, exercising Qigong and practicing Chinese medicine and Daoist medicine, and to do research for that and write in my PhD a sort of a plan on how to build a healthcare, what kind of elements should be in there, which I did. So I got my PhD with that, and I developed it further. I did a lot of experiments with my students when I was still on a location, and because of asbestos problems I was pushed out of that location and I started doing things online. Then COVID came, and because of all the situations like that, I had a long time that I had to struggle with all kind of financial things. I was before, when I was living in China with my sister, developing new plans, and we were working together with people from the Chinese medicine government. We were working with people from Chaoyang and Dongfang Daxue to develop my program there. We were reaching out towards universities in Wuhan, and I've been visiting professors from Wuhan and Hubei and Hefei and all kind of other places where I have been doing studies with people privately or in their clinic or at a university as an apprentice or a temporary apprentice. And as a result of that, I gradually developed my program over time. So my PhD, it took 13 years to complete it, so it's a long time. And at the moment when I completed it, I was very satisfied, and all the other things happened that I talked about. And years later, together with the ideas of my Shifu in Wudang Mountains in the Xuanwu Pai, Yaoshuan De, and his amazing ideas about how Taoism works and how respect for other people and kindness works. And I found myself lacking in a lot of personal qualities as a European compared to what they expected. Of course, there was this unwinding when you are there about what has been Mao Zedong influence and what has been Daoist influence. And because of my translation work for the Shifu Guide, I have gradually started to understand more and more about the cultural constructs that are at the foundation of modern Taoism and ancient Taoism, and that modern Taoism in that sense is much more close to Western spirituality, just like TCM is more close to Western medicine than it is to Chinese medicine. And that doesn't mean that there are no Taoists in China that are very traditional, because there are, but they are all grown on this new China philosophy, and as a result of that, their ideas are slightly different. And Shifu Yaoshuan De is pretty much old-fashioned. Some of the masters, also some others that I met, where I personally didn't have any great bonding with, even though I found them interesting, they represented something that is seemingly actually gone in modern Chinese society and modern Taoism. Because that situation being so, when I got the opportunity to go back to university and start developing on what I first thought a PhD program, but apparently was a doctorate program, I had to go do tests with people. And then I was like, oh, but what am I going to test? I have so much material from my PhD that I can test and work out. And then immediately when looking at my concerns about the world, I realized, like, okay, what we need is not just a healthcare, and what is the basics that people minimally need. And this is what my book is about, that I'm going to present at the London Book Fair, and where, if you are around, should come to see it, or which you should buy to read about it, and to also understand where the motivation comes from and why that is important. Brings me to the present, because what is important in this thing is that normally, because of we are being focused on our direct environment and cannot see the larger environment, we lose interest when things become bigger. Like, for instance, what Trump is trying to do is try to make it big enough that people forget about it with the Epstein things, and by involving with all kind of things, whether it is the attack on Greenland, or whether it's the attack on Venezuela, or whether it's the attack on the civilians in that country, or if it is on Iran or any other kind of place. We are in a situation where leadership like that becomes more prevalent, and I see him do exactly the same that Putin did at the beginning of his period when he was coming into power. I was traveling a lot to China, and I was reading a lot of Russian papers in the airplane, because I fly a lot through Moscow to go to China, because that was the cheapest flight around. And then you read a lot of Russian papers, and also in China I was available to read Russian papers. And then you read these things, not that I read Russian, by the way, this was the English translation version, but then you read the concerns of the writers about the changes in the politics, and the discussions that you saw between them is exactly 100% the same as you now see in the United States. Word by word, almost. And we see where Russia went to. In China, which is not my favorite holiday country, because I've never really been there on holiday, but I have been traveling and studying there for a long time, and on the intellectual level I think it is the most satisfying place, and also on the spiritual level for me it's the most satisfying place, because I can develop myself there very much. So if we now look at the relatively small scale of things that are happening and the concerns that I have and that many other people have that are in this nihilist society, we lose contact with what is actually going on, and as a result of that we are being delivered more and more to the manipulations of other people, other organizations, other institutes. The thing is, my research shows that on the level of healthcare, on the level of social care, and so on, there is a lot based on helping people from the perspective of maintaining the status quo of a society that we don't like. So as a result of that, our nihilism is only going to be fed more and more. In case of a natural disaster, in case of a political disaster, or in case of an military disaster or violent disaster of any other kind, then at that moment we are going to be delivered to a system that might or might not maintain itself. At the moment when we reach a bottom level in poverty, as what I did myself at the moment when I was losing my clinic because of asbestos, then at that moment you can say, okay, what is there to really support us? And the only thing that we have is the way how we can take care of each other, and also our health. Our health, we need to be able to take care of each other. So when my Sifu Yao Xuande teach me kindness, and I realized that as a Westerner there's a lack of it, that moment gradually my eyes started opening in a particular kind of way. My sister showed me that the way how I looked to the world, to people, objectifying basically as a Westerner. At that moment you could clearly see, oh okay, because of that I see people more as puppets which are playing a role in my life. Instead of trying to help them and to support them, I expect them to support me, and that's also why I suffer, right? I suffer and I have pains because I am afraid that something will hurt me, but I'm getting hurt because I'm not giving to other people. You have to learn, just like I had to learn to give and to understand that other people's happiness and other people's health is your health at the same time. So in my project and my doctorate research, I'm trying to develop a community of people who are learning how health actually really works as an experience, and they try to manage that on the basis of things like Tai Chi Chuan fitness. I mean, not the one that you see in the advertisements from other people, but the real Tai Chi Chuan fitness, and Daoist fitness, Daoist health, Daoist food medicine, and also meditation. And as a result of that, are able to develop a good quality of life for themselves, which eventually can be the foundation for a healthcare for their whole family or community, or in crisis situations indeed maybe to seed out into society and rebuild a better civilization. So if you have the opportunity to come to London and speak with me at the London Book Fair, or if you would like to participate in a workshop in England or anywhere else in Europe, I have contacts in Portugal, in France, in Spain, in Romania, in Greece, in Germany, all kind of other places, the Netherlands of course, where we can organize ourselves and we can do something together and work on that, and we can start building on the research project that will last for a year and teach you all the major skills and make sure that you are able to express yourself and help me forward and help you forward. It has to help also other people forward to get to the point where we all can work together and become happier and healthier and more sound people, able to steer the world into the direction that the Buddhas, the Christs, the Lao Tzus, and all the other enlightened beings always wanted from us. So let's do this. I have to add one little thing to this video, namely, how can you help this project if you cannot come to London? You can support this by donating something to my funded. This is specifically for this project. Nothing of this goes to me. Everything that is going past what I need for my project is going to my friends, the Rohingya in Bangladesh, and to friends in Ethiopia. And if there's still something left and people in Palestine or any other place want to work together, I'm going to go there with my assistants or myself and go there to teach the same project that you're going to learn with us. They will get it for free because they just need that. And the cost though will have to be covered. And we together, through the research project and through the funding that is there, we need to straighten that out. And there's going to be a list of funds that I'm going to also start, and you will find that in the commentaries. At this moment I've only started one, but my friends of the Rohingya and other people, they have implored me to also add more different kind of programs to it. Nothing of any of this money for any of these fundeds will go to me. I have already put a lot of money of myself in here also, and I am hoping for you to support this so that we can all work on an improvement, and that they can rebuild their society as they please, and we can rebuild our society as we please. Because the more we know, the more we can make a symbol of ourselves, of change. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to work together with you in the future. So sign up.